make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Roar. Roar.
Colonel Ironsides here. 200 years I stood in the gap, fighting those who would harm my country. It was my honor, my sacred duty, so help me God. 9 times they took my life. 9 times I stood back up and made them pay. The freedom fighter and I could handle anything, but someone betrayed me. I was ambushed, made mortal, rendered powerless, and retired. They passed an amendment that made me a civilian before I left the hospital. For 50 years, I watched my country change. Watched this work while erasing me from history. The day I quit my job, I powered up and discovered they lied about that too. I'll remind them of freedom. I'll remind them of duty. I'll remind them of their oaths and who they serve. I'll remind them while I'm shoving it down their throats.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to my Friday night stream. I'm sorry, my Thursday night stream. Hold on. I think I got the wrong camera selected. That looks awful. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, that's what's happened. Hold on. Well, that's better. Depending on whether you think that seeing more of me and better definition is a improvement or not, I'll let you decide. Anyway, well, tonight, I don't expect a lot of people to be here because it's kind of one of those esoteric, subjects that I cover from time to time that really is valuable. But it might, some people probably won't know what to do with it, because it is a little vague, I guess. You kind of have to tune in to know exactly what I'm going for here. Let's see. I'm having a little bit of slowdown. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me fix that. I think. Hold on 1 second here. Let's lower that. Here. All right. Okay, that's more natural movement. All right, no big deal. Probably should turn the light down a little bit. There we go. All right. So tonight I'm gonna kind of like Oh, and I lost most of my audience right there. No, well, whatever. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to talk about, one of the most important things when you're creative or trying to create something one way or another is finding that creative space. But the interesting thing is to get there. Most of the time, you kind of have to go backwards, and it's like, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by is you have to get to that headspace that you had when you was a child, okay? Because to create means that you have to play, and you have to be whimsical. You have to, uh, you know, be create. The creative space happens to be something that happens when you're in development period of childhood, where everything is possible, and you're just trying to figure out what this big old bright world is that you've just been shoved into, right? And so when you're in the crib, you'll have a stuffed animal, or you'll have something, even a teething ring. What's that? Anyway, and so part of teething is basically exploring the world around you. And so even before you're verbal, you're being creative. You're exploring. Okay. Uh, I mean, something as goofy as this right here. Give it a second. Give it a second. There you go. Got the tornado going, right? All right. Send the stars. All right. Well, little things like that. I have that on my desk when I write. If I kind of like need to get in that headspace, I'll turn that. I'll turn that on and just like watch it whirl around a little bit. Anyway, back and so when I here lately, because of some tragedies in my life that I pretty well documented on this channel, uh, still working through. But when I have to get that creative headspace, it's a little hard when when the real world is just come in on you and kind of like eating your lunch, and which has kind of happened to me lately. And so I'm going to be honest, it's a little hard to get in that headspace. It's a little hard to you know find that childhood spark. I didn't have it long. I had it about 9 years. Had a 9 year childhood when everything kind of ended for me. But I held on to what I could hold on to. When things were bad, when things were at their worst, uh, I basically, I kind of like was a little bit of a dreamer. I was doing a lot of stuff on my own. I was doing like playing on my own because my brother, who's my biggest playmate, and a lot of the instigation was something he did, but he was gone all of a sudden. And you know I, during that dark days, I clung to the things that were in my head, because my aunt decided that I was too corrupted by the world. And so now that she's raising me, she's gonna like pull me back from the brink or whatever. I don't know what she had in her head. Um, if she only lived 4 more years, so I couldn't really have that discussion. Uh, anyway, but I ain't bleak. But I was just gonna go through some of my influences, some of the things that really kind of sparked me as a child. I didn't mean for it to be a downer. This is actually something I'm trying to be inspirational here. The first thing, this is the Bible that I was given right here. This is my first like book that I was given. Let me see here. Um, I think I have the dedication in here. Yep, dedicated Christmas 73 by my grandparents. Um, But yeah, there's a just got to stick them up in here. A being that is not restrained by time has plenty of it. Hmm. I don't even know where I got that from. I have to think about that one. But this one here, this book here had some awesome illustrations. Had some cool things like that going on. The first books or the first stories that I got in my life, being from a devout Christian family, was found in the Bible. And some of the really cool stuff, like this one's the Prodigal Son. But these, I think it's kind of like proto comic books for me, because these images, these were like some of the earliest images that kind of like influenced me, and got me thinking along the lines of storytelling in terms of the visual, and so that was important. Had some reference books that kind of showed up, This one here, Quest for the Past, ancient secrets, archaeological finds, things like that. When I started being old enough to read, this is something I read, but like ships and pirates and Sinbad the Sailor, tall tales rooted in fact. That was a really influential book. Still have it. Mysteries of Ancient America. This was a good one. My dad had a Western series of Time Life books, and I had one of them, but I don't know where it got to. This recent move, I'm still finding stuff. But this is the highlights version of books. I rescued the whole entire section, the whole entire group that I had growing up. Like, this is from Treasure Island. But this had like great stories from world literature. Rapunzel's in here, Thor, Quest for the Hammer, this Thor story about the wedding that he crashed dressed as the bride. Yeah, that happened. Mowgli's brothers, shooting match at Nottingham. Alice meets Humpty Dumpty, the cat and the painkiller, which is Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Later on, I read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. So I was more of a Tom Sawyer guy than a Huckleberry Finn guy. You're either or, Well, when I had those inspirations, though, I started to like filling up notebooks, when I was at school. I didn't know that I was kind of like learning to letter a little bit. But so see, I mean, you can't really see it, but I was learning to letter. Didn't even realize it. Things like that. But what I'll find in here, I'll find these doodles, in between the school stuff. Hey, here's an old report card. I got a B. Anyway, it's amazing what you'll find in these old books. But when you start creating, you start creating for yourself, you'll find you're doing school books. See, I was learning to do some lettering for myself. Didn't even realize I was working on a comic book already. This is evidently is math, but I don't have much creative output in there. This is an interesting one. Comic books. Started getting into my own comic books. around that time. Um, actually, I was more like along the lines of more along the lines of learning. So what is this? That's my old Washington D.C. So um, here's another one, another notebook. This one has yeah, another math notebook. I had a lot of math notebooks for some reason. But I have books where I started like writing my own stories, you know. Where is they? Okay. Yep, here's a short scene I wrote sometime when I was a early teenager, I guess. But you start, you start with stuff coming into you, through different mediums, and then somewhere along the way, it's not good enough. Somewhere along the way, you start like writing your own stuff here. Like this right here has a lot of. This is like a. I was trying to journal, and I was writing down story ideas, and these are all like thumbnail story ideas that yeah, I mean, you can get lost in this stuff. I mean, you can. Um, but you know what? It's like you feed yourself all this stuff. You feed all this information into yourself, and eventually, because you have so much come into your brain, it starts to leak. You know, you start, things. You start looking at the pop culture, and it's not quite what you had in mind. It's not quite what you envision in your head. And so you start having to like create your own stuff to keep up with your hunger for new, hunger for stuff that kind of like is curtailed to you, or custom made for your desires. Um, and that's when you start like creating your own worlds. Start creating your own stuff. I had to turn on YouTube anyway. So if I get struck on YouTube, I get struck on YouTube. But I wanted to show you some things. My earliest memory of comic book, of like a comic book medium. I was my mother worked at a rest home, and that rest home had like a cable. So it's like really early. It's like 70s. Very few. Everybody's on the antenna, but this particular rest home had cable. And one of the things I happened to catch, there's a couple things I happened to catch, but this is one of them. Now, these are the motion comics that looked like the very first thing that Marvel put on television. And I happened to catch all of these. You might recognize some of these if you're Gen X, but these are the theme songs.
Captain America throws his mighty shield. All those who choose to gun, banner, belted by yet, turned into the Hulk.
and glamour race.
Reckon the town with the power of a bull.
Ain't no monster clown who is that lovable.
As ever loving Hulk. Hulk.
All right. StreamYard's just trying to hold on to me again. But those are fun, aren't they? Yeah, I mean that one, the Hulk was kind of goofy though. I mean, but that's the thing, when you're a kid, you don't think of things in terms of cool or goofy or weird or tacky. You just you know you just react to it. When you start making value judgments, that's when you start you know putting up walls as to what you enjoy. Kids can enjoy anything, right? They can watch that Barney video 70 times in a row and still be cool with it, right? But when you start getting older and you start getting like developing your taste and your taste, the funny thing about it is sometimes it's not your taste. Sometimes your older brother says, well, this is cool and that's not cool. And so you're like, oh, well, I trust him, and you start to you like get his taste and it becomes your own, right? That's how entire families will root for the same football team or whatever. But you always have that one kid that's going to zig when everybody else zags. That was kind of me. But when you start developing taste, you start developing value judgments as to what's cool and what's not cool. But if you really want to be a true creative, you really have to start tearing down some of these value judgments or some of these walls that you build up, and you start absorbing more, you start enjoying more, right? um it's like these, some of the best musicians in the world will appreciate Beethoven. They won't think that's stodgy, or they won't think that's but they can appreciate that, or they can appreciate opera. Some of the best metal singers in the world, enjoy opera. They learn technique from it. Uh, but when you start like creating these value judgments and start building these walls around yourself and what's cool and what's not cool, who determines what's cool anyway? Have you ever asked yourself that? The tastemakers from New York and LA have been telling us for years that this is cool and this is not cool. This is good and this is not good. And here we are, and we're a flyover country, and they hate our guts anyway. They think we're all a bunch of bumpkins, and yet we're taking their word for what's good and what's not good. And one of the greatest things that's happening in pop culture right now is that they've lost their status as the cool kids. And anymore, if they tell us this over here is cool and this is not, we're going to gravitate to the thing that's not, because we're like, if those guys don't like it, then I'm probably going to like it. You see this on Rotten Tomatoes when you got like a critic score that's like astronomical, but then the user score is like, it tanks. Or if you see an astronomical user score and the critics are like, ew, and you see this all the time now. But we need to get that out of our heads, that people are determining what's good or what's not good. I've always been a Megadeth man more than a Metallica man. But there's some people who are like, well, Metallica is acceptable, Megadeth is not acceptable. But I'm like, I've always enjoyed Megadeth more. But does that make me less cool? No, it doesn't. But you see, one of the greatest things about these channels that are out right now, where people are like reacting, they're trying to destroy all the reaction channels, because these reaction channels are actually creating uniformity. People are starting to break down barriers. A lot of these hip hop only guys that grew up only hip hop, listening to hip hop, are learning, ACDC, or country music and things like that, and they're like, where has this stuff been all my life? And the more you absorb, the more you allow yourself to get in that headspace as a kid. The kid loves everything. A kid enjoys everything. He just he just thinks everything is so cool. And when you're around kids, you feel like a superhero, because they just are in awe of you, right? Wow, you're so old. and you know everything. Know everything. Teach me, And even if you're downtrodden, even if you think you suck, you get with a kid and they think you hung the world, for one moment in time, you're gonna just it's gonna raise you up, right? Um, but one of the things that another thing that kind of like around this time period, this late 70s, I started watching this show right here after I think it was already in syndication, but I started watching this. We'd get our pork and beans or our pinto beans that Dad made the night before. He sorted it out on the table, and then he put it in the crock pot. And by the time we came home, with he used fatback. I found out later he used fatback, but he'd be in the crock pot. We all had our own particular dish, and we had our Tupperware. Mine was yellow, my brother's was green, my oldest brother's was blue, my sister's was pink, of course. And we'd have our own cup, we'd have our own bowl, and we'd pinto beans and cornbread and a glass of milk, and then we'd watch this show right here.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman.
All the world is waiting for you and the wonders that you do. In your satin tights, fighting for our rights and the all red, white, and blue.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman.
All of us are counting on you and the power you possess, putting all your might on the side of right and our courage to the test.
Wonder Woman. Get us out from under Wonder Woman.
Here to fight the force of evil, and your chance won't be denied. Woman of the hour, with your superpower, we're so proud.
Sorry, don't want to get struck, but still that's a snazzy. That's a really snazzy entrance there. But yeah, I mean that's why Linda Carter's always going to be Gal Gadot's fine if you like Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot, however you pronounce it. But Linda Carter's going to always be my Wonder Woman. Sorry, she just is. I had this argument with a guy the other day. I have a guy that's in my group that's just obsessed with Wonder Woman. I mean, he actually has a channel devoted to Wonder Woman, but he just thinks Gal Gadot is, or Gal Gadot, however you pronounce it, hung the moon. And I'm like, you just don't remember, or you just don't know Linda Carter, you just don't remember. But trust me, Gen X does remember. And there's also this show came on around the same time, around Friday. It was Friday nights. There was Dukes of Hazzard, and then there was this.
Dr. David Banner, physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strengths that all humans have. Then an accidental overdose of gamma radiation alters his body chemistry. And now when David Banner grows angry or outraged, a startling metamorphosis occurs. The creature is driven by rage and pursued by an investigative reporter.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
The creature is wanted for a murder he didn't commit. David Banner is believed to be dead, and he must let the world think that he is dead until he can find a way to control the raging spirit that dwells within him.
Now, a little tidbit I learned the other day I didn't know. Lou Ferrigno was on just arrived on the set, and he just decided that that he was just like brand new to the crew and everybody, and they were trying to set up the shot in the rain of him flipping the car, and the crane broke, and they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna have a delay here to get this crane, straightened out. And Lou Ferrigno's like, why don't I just do it myself? And they're like, can you do that? And he's like, I can deadlift, such and such. I think I can flip a Corolla. And so, they set it up, the rain and everything, and he flipped the dang Corolla, and they're like, okay, I think this guy's gonna work out. Of course, he did, he had to use sign language. He's Lou Ferrigno's deaf, but and the weird thing is I found out later that the guy who did the roars and the growls and everything, it's the same guy that played Lurch. I mean, that guy. He was about 7'2" or something like that. He's a massive man, sweet as can be, but he did the voice for it. Anyway, so that was something, just spurred my imagination. Me and my brother, we'd play the Hulk and things like that. And this was actually, I didn't know this was from Japan, but one of the things I watched at the rest home when I was a little boy, I had no idea this was an import or anything like that. I just thought it was cool. And this right here. So I guess I was inspired by some anime. Of course that was live action, the same. I think Toho Studios had something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was from Japan, but I thought it was all really, really, really awesome. But around that time, yeah, I was a kid. I was just absorbing stuff left and right. I'd been writing stuff in my books, and during play, you would pretend to be something, I'm this and you're that, cowboys and Indians, things like that. And we'd go around and like throw dirt clods at each other. Of course, that ended when somebody threw a dirt clod that had a rock in it, which happened more often than not. I cracked this. I threw one at this kid one time. He'd been pelting me with actual rocks. Okay. And it just like hit me multiple times. And I kept warning him. I was like, you better stop, man. You better stop or I'm going to retaliate. And he's like, yeah, you can't hit me. Right. And so I picked up a rock and I turned around and I just tossed it at him, winged it at him, and hit the crown of his head. And wouldn't you know, he was a redhead anyway, just but he had like a buzz cut red hair or whatever. And you know how redheads bleed. And next thing you know, that red hair was a lot more red. And I was kind of like, oh crap, you know. So I went home, you know, it was like, just nothing wrong, nothing wrong. Just have, I just had a nice day out, and I remember I was making hand puppets for some reason. I kind of like made Universal Monster hand puppets. And then my dad got the call from the guy's mother, and she was the mother of the neighborhood. That one. That her precious babies could do no wrong. So of course it's your son, right? And Dad's like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that you cracked his skull open with a rock?" And I was like, "I didn't crack his skull open with a rock. He said, "You threw a rock, right?" And he's like, "After he threw the rock at me multiple times." And he's like, "So it's retaliation." I was like, "Yeah, it's retaliation." So he gets on the phone with her, and he's like, "Well, why don't you ask your son why he's throwing rocks at my son?" He said, "My son wouldn't." He's like, "Yes, your son would if my son said that he threw rocks that your son was throwing rocks at him, then he was throwing rocks at him." And like my dad believes me, and I don't know. I mean, it's such a stupid thing to remember from childhood, but having your dad have your back like that it was everything. It was just everything. I wish I'd told him earlier, but I was scared. You know how that is. But things like that in childhood, man, they just shape you, right? They just shape you. Your concept of loyalty, your concept of heroism, I think one of the big problems we're suffering today is kids just don't have any. They don't, while they're in that formative period, Hollywood and is just giving them the worst, calling these people heroes, and they're not heroes, and they're shoving them in front of these kids, these people with questionable motives, and these people who wouldn't know heroism if it bit them on the butt. And they're telling these kids in their formative years, when they're still being shaped, they're still trying to decide how the world works, and they're giving them these awful, horrible people that they're calling heroes, and they're not. And that's one of the really real big tragedies of these mediums, that because kids that grew up without fathers could always find in the culture somewhere a figure that they could point to and say, that's what a hero looks like. And now they don't have that. They don't have, all their heroes are female. That's all they're allowed to look up to are females. And so what do you get? You get kids that want to be females and are afraid of men, and afraid of masculinity, and think there's something wrong with them when they're masculine. And it's like, this is doing irreparable damage to that next generation. Oh, what's up, dude? Good to see you. First comment of the day. Hey, man. Top's blush. Okay, whatever. Anyway, your name sucks, man. It's ain't no way for me to figure that out. Anyway, welcome in. But I mean, it's like even a Dukes of Hazzard, something like the Dukes of Hazzard, and they were on the wrong side of the law, but they were like Robin Hood figures because the law, or the law of the town, was corrupt, and so they were the good guys, and but it wasn't like morally ambiguous, because they, even when the people were supposed to be the law, or were bad guys. It's like Guy Gisborne was Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, and Prince John was, what was his name? Boss Hogg. I mean, but I mean, it was just like, that was all littered throughout my childhood. By the time I got to be, I lost my father at 9, and my uncle, who, was took us in, he he never had a father figure in his life, and so he didn't know what to do with me, And but I had the memories of my father, but I also had these things in the culture I could look at, these examples I had to look at, uh, and uh, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is that to get that creative space, to get back there and start like creating your own worlds, start creating your own narratives and start, you know, figuring out how the world works. When you were figuring out how the world works, if you can get back to that space, that you know cauldron of creation, that spark of life and exploration of the world around you. One of the things that can get you to back into that headspace is to start like looking into stuff. The Cryptids and Conspiracy show we do on Saturday nights has really sparked a lot of writing for me, because I'm looking into some of these things that I'd always heard about, rumored, uh, heard lore about, but I never really just like looked into it. But looking in the process of looking into it, I'm not only informing myself about things, but I'm also, you know, getting stuff to put in my world later. Grist for the mill, power for the engine, and I can't like encourage you enough that the more you absorb of varied different things. Now, I mean, if you go to like this narrow little thing that you're interested in, and that's all you talk about, it's all you read, it's all you look into, then your writing is just going to be derivative of that one thing. You got to spread your wings, broaden your horizons, if you have aversion to country music, maybe you should, you know, listen to some Johnny Cash, or if you are, think metal is just too out there for you or too aggressive, pick up Iron Maiden, listen to some Iron Maiden, um, expand your horizons. When you're a little kid, the world is your oyster, man. You're just absorbing everything around you, and everything that you're told. You know, storytelling to kids is the most fun thing. I mean, ghost stories work on kids that do not work on adults, right? And the only way they do is if you can get those adults to kind of like get in that kid mode, and then you can, I told a ghost story one night. It was a ghost story that was told to me. Man, you could tell that story. Oh my gosh, give me chills. But I never really told the story myself, but there was this like real serious meeting going on in the church, and they kind of stuck me with the kids. And the kids were like, "Tell us a ghost story. Tell us a ghost story." I was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I only know one." They're like, "Okay." And so I launched into it, man. And I tried to channel Miss Pearson, and I tried to like give it's just about a little girl hiding upstairs. She's been bad all day, and then suddenly in the middle of the night she starts hearing this voice telling her that they're on the first step, they're on the second step. And the weird thing is I was being babysat by a woman, a local woman named Ruby, and she had steps, the same amount of steps that is in the story. And so every time I heard the story, I would think about being upstairs at that house and think about hearing something talking about coming up the steps. And I got to the punchline, and man, I sold it. And then just suddenly I like grabbed somebody's leg when it's like, I got, and so the whole group was screamed, man. And then later on, everybody's like, what the heck happened? And I was like, I don't know. I just told them a story. And it's like, but the kids just absolutely loved it, man. They loved it. They loved like taking them someplace else and making them feel that. And because when you're young, man, you just want to feel things. You just want to experience things. You just want to, you're a wide open free agent, right? You don't have, you're not, you haven't been told that this is cool and that's cool, and that's not cool, and this is stupid and this is really neat, and you haven't been put those barriers up, right? And so you can enjoy Barney, or you can watch Back to the Future, or and you can sit there and believe all of it. And belief is such a powerful force, and you lose it when you grow out of it, and you never should grow out of belief. We all need belief in our lives, right? And here lately I've had my butt kicked by life, and it's been really difficult to get back in that space. Now I got some writing stuff that I need to do. I've got my own comic book to finish, and I've got a friend of mine, writing assignment for a friend of mine. And I've just been having trouble getting back in that headspace. And, because you have to get back to the kid, the mindset of a kid. The Bible says that to enter into the kingdom of heaven, you have to go like with the mind of a child. And the mind of a child is such a powerful thing. It's so powerful. And that's one of the problems. That's the first thing that this world tries to take is the belief from children, and it's the worst thing that you can do. That's why abusing children is like the biggest crime, man. It's the worst crime that we have in our society. The idea of taking that belief from a child, it should make us all just so angry. I mean, we should go scorched earth, because that belief, a child's belief, is the most powerful force on the planet. A child can believe anything and can go anywhere in their hearts and their minds, and we lose that. The world just beats it out of us, or some nefarious adult does something that hurts us, and we can no longer get back to Narnia. We can't find the wardrobe. We can't find the 100-acre woods with Pooh. We can't fly to Neverland because the feather don't work. We just can't go on the trip with Gandalf and the boys, the fellowship. And that's the worst thing, is when you can't get back there. And I think we all want it. We all want to get back there. I think that's one of the amazing things that, these adaptations of these IPs, they wonder why we care so much. Why do you care? It's just a fictional thing. Why do you care that I've swapped out this person for this person? Why do you care that I've added in this sexuality into something where it never existed before? Why do you care that, we've just completely, totally adjusted the plot line where this person's more important than this person because of some characteristic that we want to push? Why do you care that we're twisting this into a different shape? Why do we care? It's because back when we were first learning to dream, this is one of the things that helped us get there. And when you mess with that, you're messing with our childhood. You're messing with something that's integral to who we are, who we became. When you gender swap Doctor Who, you're screwing with the childhood. You're screwing with our existence, because hiding behind the sofa watching Tom Baker and K9 take on a plant monster, that was integral, man. That's part of the code, the source code that makes me who I am. It's part of the building blocks of matter, of who this adult is. And so when you start screwing with that, you are screwing with a fundamental reality of who I am. And so, yes, I'm going to push back on that. Yes, I'm going to be mad about that. And yes, I'm going to know when you screwed with it. I'll know. And you can't just gaslight me and say, well, this is the way it always is. No, I know it's not the way it always is, because I was there, But that's one of the things that they just don't understand as to why they keep saying, well, why do you care? How can I not care? When I was a kid, the world was wide open. This was one of the things that made me who I am. This IP helped me dream. And I dreamed of worlds that this IP inspired. These characters, they are like aunts and uncles to me. They're important people. And so when you screw with that, of course, you're screwing with me. Of course, I'm going to take it personally, because it is personal. That's the thing. Greta Gerwig is currently destroying Narnia for HBO. And I talked to somebody the other day. I was like, I'm trying to kind of like steel myself for what she's going to do to it, because I know what she's going to do to it. Okay. This woman's a known quantity. I know exactly what she's going to do. She's already talking about stuff that she's planning on doing. And I'm trying not to take it personally. I'm trying to like distance myself, but Narnia means so much to me. When I saw those movies and they got close to what I had in my heart, I loved it. Those movies really hold up. The Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, the Dawn Treader. They never got to the silver chair. I was so hoping to get to the silver chair because I wanted to see a Puddle Glum, But this woman can't get us there. She can't get us to Narnia. She's going to get us to LA's version of Narnia, but it's not going to be Narnia because she didn't grow up on it. It didn't form who she is. Going through that wardrobe, but it's not a journey she's ever taken. And so there's no way she's going to do anything with that's going to be anywhere close to what C.S. Lewis intended. And so, I mean, we're watching this world around us, and they're just burning this IP left and right, burning Star Wars, burning Doctor Who, burning, Star Trek. They've been desecrating Star Trek the last few years. And we look at it, we know it's not the right thing, because we know what it looks like. And yes, we care. But we're just watching them destroy it. And the only way to fix it is to make stuff that makes us feel like that did when we first saw it. And so we're creating our own new worlds, our own new characters, our own new adventures. And the only way we're going to get there, the only way we're going to have that authenticity, the same authenticity that made us who we are. So we got to get back to being a kid, that kid mindset, where it's wide open, where you'd watch something, then you'd go and play and be that. And it just taught you who you are. That's the only way we can get back there. Get that sense of whimsy back. Start ignoring what's cool. And be a goofball if that's what it takes. Wear the corny stuff. You know. Be a complete goober. If that's what it takes to get you back there. You know, get your little lamp and watch the tornado. It's a simple thing. It's the simple things, right? It's just the simple things. I've got a hologram of Dracula on my wall over here, and I gave him a high five before I turned the light off every night that I'm in here. Why? Why do I do that? Because I'm kind of high-fiving my childhood, Why do I have toys on the wall back there? Why do I have comic books in that shelf back there? I mean, why am I still trying to hold on to this childhood thing? And I guess because if I lose that, then I don't know why I'm even here anymore. I've been in contact with somebody recently, and I just met the guy, and I immediately severed ties because this guy was so broken, so negative, and so unable to find that whimsy, and just talking to him, I felt a child in me die just talking to him, because that kind of negativity will destroy that faster than anything. But I don't want to get like that guy. And I could very easily go there with all the things that have been happening. But the only way for me to go forward is to go back and visit that kid every once in a while. Visit the kid that hid behind the couch and watched Tom Baker fight the Cybermen. Or visit that little kid who threw the dirt clod and cut the other kid's head open, inadvertently. But get back to, being scared by ghost stories. But get back to, watching Captain America throw his mighty shield. Just I have to get back there and I have to visit, and not only visit, but keep it with me. That's the hardest thing to do in this world right now. Everything's negative. Everybody's destroying childhoods or trying to make everybody grow up and be serious about every single moment of the day. They're not, lose that sense of humor and be self-serious all the time. And people are just breaking people. So if you get a chance to be a goober, get a chance to do something corny, enjoy something that some people would think was not cool, do it. Because it's not about quality of life, it's about your soul. Your soul is at stake. And the moment we're closest to our soul is when we're kids. Because we're all soul when we're kids, Anyway, thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope I inspire somebody, you'll have to be on replay. I don't think I had very many eyeballs tonight. Certainly didn't have a lot of, comments or anything, but that's fine. I expected it kind of be a vague subject, but it was something I really wanted to talk about. And I hope somebody hears it tonight and maybe decides to crack open that DVD they haven't watched for a long, long time, or, read a textbook or a spiral bound when they wrote their ideas down. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time. Follow the White Rabbit. And bye, everybody.
Thank you.